So I just want to talk about the dust collection setup on my table saw. I've had many requests to go over this feature in more detail. I don't know what you would call it. It's the swing up dust extractor arm contraption, and you've probably seen this in every one of my videos, and I've had this on my saw for maybe 10 years. It works really good, and of all the woodshop innovations that I've come up with, I would have to place this at number one in terms of how well it works and how much it's changed the work environment. The table saw is the central machine in the woodshop to produce most of the wood cutting, and it produces a lot of fine dust. And most machines just have a semi-functional port on the bottom. They don't come with a dust collection solution above the blade. So that's something you have to come up with on your own or buy an aftermarket product. And when I started doing more production work, I didn't have this set up, and the fine dust coming off the saw was creating a serious environmental hazard. It's a health hazard and a fire hazard because that dust builds up, gets in all the nooks and crannies, even inside the electrical outlets. And it's not a good situation. So if you're serious about woodworking and you're going to do it permanently or professionally, you need to have some kind of solution for getting that dust above the blade. And that's your best and first step to achieving a dust-free work environment. But this setup works really good. I originally designed this to utilize this blade shroud protector, and that maybe increases the dust collection efficiency a little bit, but I found that just having the open 4-inch port a few inches away from the blade is plenty of efficiency, because this is what makes it work so well, and why aftermarket products don't work as well, because this has a full 4-inch port, and that creates a powerful negative pressure zone above the blade, and none of the airborne dust, the fine particles, can escape that negative pressure zone. So the heavy chips, they scoot out, fall on the floor. That's not a problem, but the fine dust spreading throughout the whole shop space is the problem. And this created a very good solution, and I no longer need to wear the dust mask operating the saw with this setup, which that alone is a world of difference in terms of user comfort and being able to use the saw in continuous use, because I wear eyeglasses, and dust masks are not eyeglass friendly. They fog up in a short period of time, and they're just not comfortable to wear. And in a lot of cases, you just don't want to put it on because it's uncomfortable, and then you end up compromising your health. So, and even if you wear the dust mask, you're still putting fine dust into the environment and creating a more permanent hazard that's going to linger. And every time you move in the shop, every time you move a board, it's going to kick up more dust, and it's going to get all over your clothes. It's just a problem. So this is a good solution. It works well for me. I've got a 10-foot ceiling, and it's a wood structure, so it's easy for me to bolt and screw things up there. But I went ahead and did the plans. I had a lot of requests for this, so I went ahead and measured everything I have installed here, did a hardware and parts list, and put together a little kit of some of the harder to find items, like this idler pulley. Very simple to install. You just need a 3/8 bolt. Goes right in. And I made a little shroud around it to help with the tracking, to make sure that the rope doesn't come off. And I also made an upgrade here. I had built an internal debris guard to prevent loose knots and big chunks of wood from getting sucked up into my system. That's a hazard because it could potentially damage my impeller on the blower, and that would be an expensive fix. But also little slivers get sucked in there, and that creates clogs, and it's also a maintenance hassle. So I should have built this a long time ago, but I just wanted to get it done for this video to show the complete setup. And I also include a scrap piece of 1/2-inch wire mesh in the kit to make that easier, and also a 6-foot piece of nylon webbing, an also hard to find product. And this is useful for strapping up the flexible hose to get it out of the way. So the most expensive part of this is probably the flexible hose and the 4-inch aluminum blast gate, and that you can get at most hardware catalogs like Grizzly. But most of the hardware you can get at home centers like Home Depot or Lowe's. This is just all plumbing stuff. Schedule 40 4-inch PVC. This is a 22.5 degree elbow, a 45 degree street elbow. This is a pipe hanger. And this stuff is called plumbing strap. Very useful stuff for the wood shop. You can get all that in the plumbing section. This is called a turnbuckle, and that allows for a couple of inches of adjustment up and down. So when I rip a heavy thick board, I can move this up to reposition it. And for the main part of the frame, you need a really good straight 2x4, and unfortunately sometimes you can spend all day in the lumber yard and not find a good 2x4, but every once in a while I'll come across one that's really good, really straight, and I'll set it aside for a later project, and that's one of these 2x4s. And for the hinges, you need a couple of heavy-duty strap hinges. I would say that's about as small as I can get away with. That's just what I had in the shop at the time. But the bigger the hinge, the better, because this does take a lot of stress if you hit it with a board. And you need a couple of block pulleys and a couple of really long eye bolts. I built some extra framing to attach the joists in the ceiling, and I ran the eye bolt all the way through and bolted it, secured it from the top, so it's very, very strong. You want to make sure that that's a very good connection up there. And so you need 2 block pulleys, 2 eye bolts to hang from the ceiling, and about 25 feet of rope. And that's pretty much it. The rest is scrap material and miscellaneous plywood. And so I've decided to phase out the extra blade guard attachment because I prefer to use the saw in this configuration. I like to have the visibility of the cutting blade and to have access on both sides and just to be able to see what's going on up close. But it is nice to have the feature of the blade guard to provide a blocking shield to prevent shrapnel, loose knots and stuff from kicking up in your face. And so it's nice to be able to put that on, but if I feel that there's a risk, I prefer just to put on the goggles and use the saw that way. So I'm just going to use it like this. I put the blue tape on just for some added visibility, and this is how I prefer to use the table saw. And it works for 90% of the cuts that I have to do, and if it's in the way, I just pull on the rope and get the clearance I need, and then drop it back down when I want to put it back on. It's very fast, very effective, and it's really helped out my wood shop considerably and mitigated a serious problem with the fine dust. A lot of people have wanted to replicate this, so now you can. You can buy the plans. I have the kits available in limited supply. I happened to buy some extra pulleys at the time, and these are kind of hard to find. So you can look for that on eBay, cuttingboardfeet.com. And if you're looking for a push stick, I still got some kits available for $40 plus shipping. And the kit is going to be around $25 with the plans.